Hi, welcome to Aquatic Earth. I'm your host, Sharky Jones. The US Gulf Coast has over 3,000 platforms. Each acts as an artificial reef sheltering a lot of life. The great thing about diving in the Gulf is that it's connected to the Caribbean and shares many of the same species. We set out from the port of Venice at the bottom of the Mississippi River and east to Main Pass 311 field. We left before dawn. It takes about 2.5 hours to get to site, and we all snooze on bunks on the way out. Inshore, the water is muddy, but offshore it can be very clear one day and muddy the next. On this day, I dived with my mate and my fencing master, Chris Trammell. I stop at 34 meters, but my buddy and the other spear fishermen, they make short bounce dives to 50 or 60 meters. I meet Chris on his way back up from depth. He spots a large barracuda and points him out. Gulf spearos spend very short times at depth, but then if they find a fish, they stay longer and skip dives later. The sediment plume from the Mississippi River changes daily. Today the platform is in murky waters. Tomorrow it may be different. We move locations. It's amazing how just a short distance away and the visibility can improve a lot. Most of the diving under the rigs is for spearfishing, but there are a few photographers like me as well. Rig diving is amazing. It combines the best of wreck diving and diving deep reef walls. Diving inside a giant structure, it feels like flying. It's magic. At several different depths, there are these riser spaces. They are colonized and they act like a sea bottom and are brilliant to dive. At 40 meters, I linger only long enough to get some shots looking up, and then I go up shallow to off gas. Filming at 30 meters, the spear fishermen pass us on their way up from depth to try their luck in the shallower waters. High up above me, I see one of the spearos has had some luck down deep with a cobia, and he brings it shallow to fight it. Of more interest to me, up above I see a large barracuda, schools of amberjacks, and a school of Mexican lookdowns. At 20 meters, I stop at the riser spacer, and this provides a lot of habitat and holes for the fish to hide. All over the riser spacer are colonies of yellow cluster anemones and many coral reef fishes. We swim back to the boat, which is moored near the platform's boat dock. The fishermen check the catch and put them on ice. One has caught a large cobia, and Chris has caught an amberjack. Our third site is a bit silty, but it gets clearer at depth and there are more barracuda here. Here we see a juvenile French angelfish. These guys, they start off black but with yellow stripes, but later they just become black with flecks of yellow. One of my favourites arrives. A large blue angelfish comes in and searches for food amongst the rig legs and joints, totally unafraid of us. The rig legs rise up from the gloomy depths over 100 meters below, and an amberjack passes close to me in front. A school of large Atlantic spadefish swim close to me. The fish seem to recognize spear guns and stay away from the spearos but closer to me. The feeling of flying you get by moving weightless inside this giant three-dimensional structure must be one of the one of the most appealing aspects of blue water rig diving. The other big appeal for me are the fish that fly all around me like birds in the sky. I remember one time, after nearly 4 hours in the water, getting home to find a light bulb in my kitchen and blown, and without thinking I breathed in to become buoyant and I pushed off from the floor, and quickly I realised my mistake. I thought, what the hell am I doing? And I just had a laughing fit. Barracudas look scary, but generally they ignore divers. But they are dangerous to spear, so the spear guys leave them alone. The hunters weave their way through the close-packed areas of the legs. Each diver gives each hunter a wide berth or stays out of the line of fire. The hunters take great care too. Just like hunters on land, they're careful with muzzle discipline, and they decock whenever they can. Here we see Chris decocking his gun, taking the 2 bungees off the spear. On the rig leg itself, many barnacles grow. Dead barnacles make homes for cute gobies and blennies. Between dives, the fishers do some line fishing, catching and releasing a couple of blacktip sharks. On this dive, we make a brief excursion to depth for about 2 minutes and spend most of the dive above 20 meters. Moving around weightless inside a large 3D structure feels like flying through a forest. The fish feel like birds weaving through the trees. It's a theme I can't stop coming back to, because quite simply, flying is the best thing about being inside a rig structure. Mexican lookdowns are circular shaped, but very thin, almost 2-dimensional like a coin. They're not flying between the rig legs, but between a forest of oil and gas wells. Behind these riser pipes flow oil and gas to power America, sealed behind multiple barriers of steel and cement. I love diving the platforms that have wells, production platforms, because they have more structure due to the forest of wells. The rig legs and riser spreaders form a sea bottom, and a blue angelfish picks its way around looking for food. Spot-fin butterfly fishes, normally found on coral reefs in the Caribbean, flit around on the deck. Closely packed production well risers look more like a dense forest when seen from a distance. When the lookdowns turn so that they are end on, they look so thin they almost disappear. Watch carefully. 15 meters above me, one of the spear fishermen do their long safety stops, decompressing slowly. My time at 20 meters is running out. I need to move up to the shallows and spend some time on decompression stops myself. Arriving at 5 meters, I find several other fishermen decompressing, doing their safety stops and carrying their catch. Chris optimistically is still hunting in the 5 to 10 meter zone, but to no avail. Sometimes it doesn't feel so much like flying as it feels like being on a spacewalk on a huge interstellar spaceship. Chris finally calls it quits and unloads his spear gun. Safety decompression stops done, we head for the boat on the 2.5-hour journey back to Venice, Louisiana. Arriving after dark, the fishermen pose for a photo with their catch, each within the licensed limits. That's all for today. Thanks for joining us on Aquatic Earth, and tune in for the next episode.